Ian tais glosais, ton anthropon lalo kai ton angelon, agapen de me echo, gegona kalkos ekon e kumbelon elaladzon. Kai ian echo prophetein kai edo ta mysteria panta kai pasan ten gnosen, kai ian echo pasan ten pistin hoste hore methistenen agapen de me echo. Uthen Amy. This upcoming Friday is Valentine's Day. It is a day, of course, when we celebrate love. So in anticipation of Valentine's Day, this morning I would like to lead all of us in a celebration of love, but instead of using Hallmark cards, Italian dinners, and chocolate, we will be using the writings of Plato. Plato's almost as good as chocolate, right? Depends on who you ask. Perhaps the most famous literary celebration and philosophical examination of love appears in one of Plato's writings known as the Symposium. Here's the dramatic premise of the Symposium. The poet Agathon is hosting in his home a symposium or drinking party, because that is what symposium literally means in the Greek. It's a place and time when you get together and drink. So the next time you get sent to a symposium for work or for school, it is perfectly appropriate for you to go to your host and say, "Where's the free bar?" But I digress. Agathon, the poet, is hosting a drinking party at his house. The partygoers there include Socrates. And the partygoers decide amongst themselves to play a little party game. Here's the game. They would go around, each in turn around the room, and each individual would deliver an encomium or a hymn of praise to love. Hardcore philosophy ensues. My favorite part of the Symposium is the section attributed to Aristophanes, the famous Greek comic playwright. His explanation of the origin of love has been reproduced, more or less, in the words of the song that Sonny and I just shared with you out of our meditation this morning. Now, in that song, they took some artistic liberty, added a few other gods that weren't part of the Greek pantheon, but other than that, the words essentially represent Aristophanes' theory on why love exists today. He suggests that all of us are one half of a whole, and we yearn to find our other half. In Aristophanes' mythology, homosexual men are the children of the sun, looking for their other half, which is also male. Lesbian women are the children of the earth, looking for their other half, which is also female. And heterosexual men and women are the children of the moon, looking for their respective other halves. And although over the course of a lifetime, many people will find some compatible partner with whom to connect, it's a wonderful but rare occurrence when one half succeeds in finding his or her original, actual half. But, according to Aristophanes, it does happen, if you're lucky. Here's what Aristophanes himself says on the subject, and this is an adapted translation from Benjamin Jowett. "And when one of them meets his or her other half, the actual half of himself or herself, the pair are lost in amazement of love and would not be out of the other's sight even for a moment. These are the people who pass their whole lives together, yet cannot explain why they desire one another so. Suppose Hephaestus came to such a pair and were to say to them, 'Do you desire to be wholly one? Always, day and night, to be in one another's company. For if this is what you desire, I am ready to melt you into one and let you grow together, so that being two, you shall become one. And even after your death in the world below, you shall still be one departed soul instead of two. Is that what you desire?' Not one would deny that this melting into one another was the very expression of his or her ancient need. And the reason is that human nature was originally one, and we were a whole, and the desire and pursuit of the whole is called love." You see why I like Aristophanes so much. Some of you here this morning know in your heart of hearts that you are one of the lucky ones, according to Aristophanes. Against all odds, you found your actual other half. So to you, I say this morning, congratulations. Know that you are blessed, but please don't rub your good fortune in the faces of the 99% of everyone else who aren't quite as lucky as you. Now, if you're not in that exceedingly small percentage of lucky people who have found their true and actual other half, fear not, you're in good company. Most haven't. And although this is a Valentine's Day message, it's for everyone, so you can stay in the sanctuary. At one point in Plato's Symposium, a guest asks a very important question. The question being, just what kind of love are we talking about here? Kind of like what Jennifer asked in her words earlier. Now, let me step away from the symposium for just a moment. Growing up, and as part of my own Christian education, I was taught that there were three distinct kinds of love. First was romantic love, love associated with physical attraction. Perhaps you could even go so far as to call this lust. The Greek term for this kind of love was eros, from which we derive the English term erotic. The second kind of love is brotherly or sisterly love, a kind of affection. A synonym could also be liking, and this Greek term is philia. And my own name of Phillip is a derivative of philia, this second kind of Greek love. Now, the third kind of love is transcendent love, divine love, perfect, unconditional love. The Greek term associated with this kind of love is agape. Now, agape is, for all intents and purposes, a Christian invention. Not the concept, but the term. The concept of transcendent divine love goes back at least as far as Plato. I'm talking about the word agape, A-G-A-P-E, or alpha, gamma, alpha, pi, eta. This word did exist in the Greek language before Christianity, but it didn't become popular until Christians appropriated the term and incorporated it into their own theology. So why did Christians use this term agape when the concept of divine love already existed and already had a name? The answer I'm about to share with you is my own personal theory as a very, very amateur Greek scholar, so take it with a grain of salt. The original term for divine love, at least as used by Plato in the Symposium, is eros, the same term used for erotic love. Now, it is slightly modified, and it's a derivative, but it's the same base word. Before Christianity comes on the scene, Greek philosophy saw physical love and divine spiritual love as having a similar root. There were distinctions between the two, but both were two sides of the same substance, eros. This theory, however, poses a bit of a problem for early Christians who saw erotic love as dangerous and sinful. So even though Christianity borrows a huge amount of its theology directly from the philosophy of Plato, early Christian theologians consciously decided not to use Plato's own word for the concept of divine love. Christians renamed and rebranded Plato's divine love to make it compatible with their own theology. So by changing the name of divine love to agape, a word that has no etymological or historical connection to eros, they put spiritual godly love as far away as possible from base, dirty, sexy, erotic love. And perhaps to make the separation even more emphatic, they jammed this third kind of love, philia, right in the middle to act as a buffer. Much of our current day dis-ease with talking about physical love in the same breath as transcendent divine love stems from a more general dis-ease that we have with understanding the balance between the physical and the spiritual. This, too, is a holdover from early Christian theologians like the Apostle Paul, who, ironically enough, inherited this conflicted view of the physical and spiritual from Plato himself. But Plato and Paul aside, much of the ancient world did not see a distinction necessarily, a division between the physical and the spiritual. And a good case in point on this is perhaps the most celebrated love story in all of ancient mythology, the tale of Cupid and Psyche. What would a Valentine's Day sermon be without some mention of Cupid, right? Now, when I mention Cupid, I want to know, and you can just raise a hand or call it out, what are some of the images that come to your mind when I say Cupid? What are some of the images? Baby with an arrow, diapers. Yes, we see the diapers. I always see those. Exactly. So the picture of Cupid that has become popularized is a little itty bitty baby, tiny little wings maybe, big old full diaper, going around with his little bow and arrow, cute little cherub. Now the problem, as some of you scholars of ancient mythology know, this was not the Cupid of ancient Greece or of ancient Rome, rather. You have to understand, Cupid was the son of Venus, the goddess of sex and beauty. Cupid, as her son, was essentially her male counterpart. He was a fully developed sex god. So think of the sexiest, the hottest, the buffest guy you could think of on earth, slap some giant archangel wings on him. If you want to put him in a diaper still, I guess you can. That's Cupid. And again, you can understand why the Western modern world, with its taboos on sexuality, has come to infantilize Cupid. We wouldn't want women in this day and age to have a sex god to worship or look at or think about. I mean, who needs the competition, right, guys? Now, this morning, I do not have the time to get into all the details of the Cupid and Psyche story for you. If you're not already familiar with it, it's beautiful. Take some time and read it. Do it for Valentine's Day. But the super quick and dirty version goes like this. Cupid falls in love with Psyche. They become separated. Psyche wanders the earth searching for her lost love. She suffers trials and tribulations, even wandering down into the pit of the underworld in search of Cupid. She eventually falls to a magic spell that puts her to sleep. Cupid finds her. He rescues her. They are wed together. The gods throw them a massive wedding banquet. Everyone lives happily ever after. It's a great story, fit for Disney. I think Disney actually did take this story, it's some elements of it. Many philosophers and theologians over the years have translated this story as an allegory with various meanings. So this morning, here's one more. To understand the story fully, we need to understand the names of the character. Cupid is actually Latin. The Romans, as they often did, changed the original Greek name. The original name of Cupid in Greek is, anyone know? Eros, exactly, son of Aphrodite. Psyche, from which we derive the English term psychology, literally means soul. This story, then, is the love story of the physical and the spiritual, body and soul, the perfect union of the two, how they complete each other. For what good is the physical without a heart and soul to anchor it? What good is a heart full of love that cannot be translated and communicated through your hands? Love, in whatever form it takes, eros, phileo, agape, is the mortar that binds individuals together. It binds us together as couples, as families, as communities. And in that truth is the secret of love's great power. And make no mistake, love is extremely powerful. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. In the Symposium, Aristophanes himself says, humankind has never at all understood the true power of love. Now think on this. Why did the gods in Aristophanes' story seek to divide the humans? When humanity is unified, when we act as one, we are so powerful that even the gods shake in fear of us. When we are united in love, there is nothing we cannot accomplish together. So if we as a church want to leave a lasting mark on this city, and I believe all of us have said we want that, if we want a spiritual community that is going to bring positive change to Jacksonville, to Northeast Florida, then we must step into the fullness of our own power. And we can only do that by growing in our own understanding and practice of love. And it starts right here in the way that we treat each other. Our power and influence will grow only as our ability to truly love one another grows. Love one another. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? It is anything but. If there's one thing I've learned about love, walking and living in love, it's this: love is deceptively complex. Quick example from my own life over the past couple of weeks. This morning you noticed our first hymn was I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles. I was originally planning to make our first Beatles-inspired hymn, All You Need Is Love. Sounded perfect. Would go great with this sermon, right? So I took my guitar, sat down in front of the computer, played the song. In my memory, this is such a beautiful but really simple song. I thought, I'll knock this out in 5 minutes. I'll work with the youth band on it. We'll knock it out on Sunday. It'll be great. But that's not what happened. As I sat down and listened to this song again with analytical ears, I realized this song is incredibly, deceptively complex. Here's some info on that song that I pulled from Wikipedia. Sorry. but I believe this is true. If you know anything about music, you can hear it. The song is notable for its asymmetric time signature and complex changes. The main verse contains a total of 29 beats, split into two 7/4 measures, a single bar of 8/4, followed by a 1-bar return of 7/4 before repeating the pattern. The chorus maintains a steady 4/4 beat with the exception of the last bar of 6/4. The love, love, love chant involves chords in a 1-5-6 shift and simultaneous descending BA-G notes with the concluding G note corresponding not to the tonic G chord, but acting as a flattened third of the E minor chord. This is also introduced the E note of the E minor chord as a sixth of the tonic G scale. During the long fade-out, elements of various songs can be heard, including Invention Number 8 in F major by Johann Sebastian Bach. All you need is love? All you need is a PhD in music to understand this song. You may remember, if you're familiar with the song, Sir Paul McCartney claims of love. It's easy. But the music behind the words is anything but. The music behind the words is anything but. Love may be all you need, but love is deceptively difficult. I venture to say that to fully understand, to fully appreciate, to fully master love, it takes a lifetime of experiences. Understanding love is a process that, like the universe itself, unfolds and expands over time. My first experience with love, maybe much like your own, was as a baby in the arms of my mother and father. But my understanding of love evolved. It grew from that. My understanding of love expanded when I went to kindergarten and made my first best friend, a young boy who would later grow up and be the best man at my wedding. My understanding of love expanded that cold night in Kansas when I experienced my first kiss. It expanded when I first heard Jimi Hendrix's guitar on Voodoo Child. That's love too. It expanded when I looked into Sonny's eyes and said, I do. It expanded when I met my daughter Sage for the first time in that hospital room in downtown Jacksonville. It expanded again when I met her sister Adia several years later. And I look forward to my understanding of love continuing to expand into the future when Sage someday brings home her future spouse for me to meet. My understanding of love will expand. Whether I like it or not, it will expand. When Adia has her first child of her own, it will expand. To be understood, love must be experienced. Words alone will not suffice. Despite beautiful, elaborate, and nuanced definitions that people far smarter than me have attempted to tie around the word love, I find that this thing called love refuses to be fully captured, refuses to be tamed, refuses to be domesticated and subjugated by mere words. As perhaps the most transcendent of values, love is ineffable. Love's roots reside in the deep, dark places, the inscrutable, soulless chambers of the heart. The complexity and mystery of love reminds me of something I read by UU minister Jean Harrison Nuajar, who shares that she has a specific catchphrase she likes to use in moments when she realizes that she doesn't know what to say. The catchphrase being, I can tell you, but only in Arabic. The catch is, Reverend Nuajar doesn't speak Arabic. Here's what she says in her own words. I find myself wanting to use this phrase on occasions when I know something and would like to communicate it, but my own native language, the words known to me, will not suffice. Why do you love me? I can tell you, but only in Arabic. Some of what I know, I can express only in a language I do not know. There's something to be communicated, something real and important, but it lies beyond my ability to express it with my everyday vocabulary. At the beginning of this sermon, I shared some words with you about love, but very likely in a language you did not understand. It's not Arabic. I'd have to get Jeff Funderburk up here to share some Arabic with you. What I shared with you was simply ancient Greek. But I wanted to force you into an experience of listening to something you intuitively know but cannot fully articulate, because that is the experience of love. If you're curious, the words I shared were these. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. Love is a gift. I am blessed to be part of a universe where love exists. And when I look upon my own good fortune to be part of this universe, to both give and receive love, my own heart sings these words that I'm stealing shamelessly from William Shakespeare. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, most wonderful, wonderful, and yet again, wonderful. Blessed be.